Okay, we're set to begin now with Georgia head coach Kirby Smart. The Bulldogs will travel to Kentucky on Saturday at 7:30 Eastern on ABC. And coach, while we wait on any questions, if you could please take a moment to comment on your team as you enter the SEC opener on Saturday. One moment while we get Coach Smart's line unmuted.
Hey guys, I'm here. Sorry, running behind here. Yeah, we're looking forward to going to Lexington. Tough place to play. I feel like I've been going up there my whole life from the time here as a player and coaching in the SEC. A lot of respect for Coach Stoops and the job he's done. Just a tremendous coach, and they play with great physicality, and it's one of the better environments that you'll find in the country. So we got a tough, tall task of going up there to play these guys, and we're working our butts off to get ready.
All right, for questions, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll begin with Mike Griffith of Dog Nation.
Kirby, we've seen Anthony Evans excel on the punt return. We haven't really seen a whole lot of your kick return unit. I don't think you guys have given up a touchdown yet. Can you talk a little bit about where that's at and what you anticipate out of that unit this year?
Yeah, we've worked really hard at creating depth. We sell every player on being a part of every unit, and we have every player on our team work on special teams during the off season and preseason camp. So we spend a lot of time on KOR. We have not got to use it as much, obviously, but it's one of those that when you play on the road, it's one of the most important plays in the game because they have just scored. And when a team has just scored and has momentum, you need to seize momentum, and that is an opportunity to do that on KOR. So we're excited to use those guys, and hopefully we'll do well with it.
Next is David Eckert of the Austin American-Statesman.
Hi, Kirby. Appreciate the time. I just wanted to ask you, when in a game like last week where you're in command kind of throughout, what do you learn from those snaps in the second half where you're able to get your backups in the game?
Oh, you get a chance to reward kids that maybe wouldn't get to play this early in their career. They get an opportunity to. That they work just as hard as the starters do in practice. And I know as a former player myself, there's nothing better than getting to play in your home stadium in front of your family and friends and see the growth that you've maybe made since the last time you played, or get some of the anxiety out of the way if you haven't played at all.
Next is Gary Graves of the Associated Press.
Good morning, Coach.
Morning.
Yeah, I guess looking back on the Clemson game and I guess the last week's game, with your early season schedule, how are you kind of looking at setting up challenges like that? You open with a big challenge, you have a little bit of a breather. What kind of trend do you see in terms of early season scheduling now, maybe with the college football playoff?
Yeah, Gary, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, the trend is you play the schedule you got. And I think everybody has a different schedule that sometimes they control, sometimes they inherit. I don't even know when the schedule was set, to be honest with you. I know that when it was set, there wasn't a 12-team playoff in mind. It was done prior to that. So I don't think I don't think as a coach you get into the ebbs and flows or ups and downs of who you're playing. You worry a lot more about how your team's playing week to week.
Mm-hmm. As a follow-up, how do you feel like your team has handled this, where you open with a big challenge like that? I mean, how much did that help?
Well, I like playing good opponents. I think our fan base likes it. It makes for a better off season. So I'm certainly glad we were able to play a really good team and good program like Clemson.
Next is Steve Moulton of WZZM.
Coach, I always appreciate the time. I wanted to ask about Carson Beck. How have you seen him develop specifically as a leader on your team, Coach?
He's got command of the offense. He speaks a little more. He talks about the defense and the offense, and he affects special teams players, and he just takes more command this year.
And specifically with Kentucky, what did you see out of Kentucky in that last game, the Kentucky-South Carolina game, Coach?
Well, saw a team that had some turnovers, lost momentum. And when you lose momentum in a game, sometimes it's hard to get back. Certainly, the score did not indicate the way the game went, but extremely physical football teams, what you see on tape on both lines of scrimmage.
Thank you, Coach.
If there are any others, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. Looks like we have a follow-up from Mike Griffith.
Yeah, Kirby, on the bye games, the year that the COVID year was conference games only. Reflecting back, and you probably don't reflect back often, but if you would philosophize a little bit here, did you lose something by not having those bye games and having the opportunity to maybe play some of those younger players and build some of that depth that typically kicks in November, December?
I can't remember that far back. I mean, I just remember how brutal the schedule was. It was condensed, and it was really tough and physical every week in and week out. So, I always call it, it's more like the NFL. There's not a week off in terms of who you play. So that's kind of how I remember that COVID season, is playing really good, high quality opponents week in and week out. So it's a tougher, very different kind of schedule than what we deal with right now.
With that in mind, Kirby, if I might follow, because of the college model, because of the larger schedule, because of the developmental aspect of the game, I would assume then that you're a proponent to maintain these types of games. Do you think these games are healthy for college football and what y'all are trying to accomplish?
Well, I don't want to make that assumption. I understand your reasoning for saying that, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. But there is a case that can be built for higher quality, more games, parity, to play more formidable opponents that are like yourself. So yes, it benefits players to play. Yes, we are developing players and developing young men, and we're giving opportunities to people. But it really goes back to what is your core belief and what is your core purpose, because that's really what you have to define that by.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from CBS Sports. Shahan, I don't want to mispronounce your last name, so I may have to have you do it here.
Yes, sir. Shahan J. Rod from CBS Sports. How you doing, Kirby?
Doing good, thanks.
I was curious, I've looked around college football the last few weeks, and it feels like this year especially, offensive line play has been kind of inconsistent. I'm curious, in the portal era, I mean, how do you build offensive lines? What kind of challenge is it to do it in this era?
Well, it's a challenge in every era. I mean, offensive linemen are fewer and far between. First of all, there's less people in this world that are 6'3", 6'4" than there are 5'10". And traditionally, you want your linemen to have some height and size. Less and less kids, in my opinion, are playing football at that size. So there's less and less, a pool of players to get. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from the NFL that, it's the position they struggle the most to find. So they're in constant pursuit in these colleges of looking and finding and trying to find linemen. So if they're struggling to find them, so are we. And it's certainly that way at the high school level too. So I can't say it's deteriorated over 10 years, because I don't know. It was hard 10 years ago to find them. But you say, how do you develop them? You have to be patient. You have to invest time in them at young age and grow them, because they're not typically ready physically at first year.
I'm curious, is it a position that you feel like you can transfer guys in, or is it one that you feel like you really need guys to have been in the program for a while?
Yeah, me personally, I feel like they need to be in the program for a while, and not because they can't learn it, just because nobody's, you're not finding very many effective offensive linemen in the portal. I mean, it's not a position that is a high transfer position.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, guys.